Apple, what have you done? Okay, just concluded WWDC and there wasn't so much, but there were some major things. Come think of it, what does WWDC actually stands for? I know the DC stands for Developers Conference. WW would be Worldwide Developers Conference. Okay, so it's all software and no hardwares until September, but there were two major features aside all the OSs, which we'll get into in a sec. But this is a recap, digest, or impressions. I'm just going to call it a digest of everything that was announced at WWDC 25. So let's get into it. Two major announcements. So we've skipped and jumped, call it what you may, but let me check this quickly. iOS 19, tvOS 19, macOS 12, and visionOS 3. We're now getting everything in 26. So we skipped the number 19 and jumped all the way to 26. And at this point, I'm already starting to think that Apple has a big problem with the number 9. And so many people are saying it's just to match the coming year. So instead of saying iOS 19, it makes sense to say iOS 26. It rolls off the tongue easily and kind of makes some sense. So the next big thing before we get into all the OSs is the new visual overhaul, which was, I think, inspired by the Vision Pros and water and glass, which they're calling liquid glass. Everything is now translucent or transparent, and it just feels like they've taken a bunch of apps and the whole Apple interface and puts it in ice and drops it in water. So the new interface is across all devices, so from iPhone to TV to Vision Pros, and I have some thoughts. But before then, iOS. What's new in iOS 26? First was wallpaper. So because of the new design and because everything is now clear and translucent, the time in the lock screen now fluently adapts to your wallpaper, and that's cool. So depending on what wallpaper you have, it would behave differently, and you can also get away with the new 3D effect. Outside wallpapers, the next thing is camera. So the camera app is now simplified. When you open the app, you're greeted with just photos or videos. And I'm sure there are some people out there that would just hate this, because when they open the camera app, the first thing they are going straight to is, oh, portraits. Now you have to get to that using some fewer clicks, and it's just one of those things that you get used to the more you use it, so no harm there. So you just swipe from below to access some other camera features like live photos and the flash, and hopefully you don't close the app from time to time by swiping, but again, you get used to it. To change frame rates, swipe from up, and yeah, you get the gist. In the Photos app, we all know the Photos app and we all hate the Photos app in iOS 18, but I think they've gone through some sort of redesign, because they just briefly touched on it and showed us like a little interface where they separated libraries and some other stuff. But you know what's funny? Apple knows that some features in its software are bad, but how they try to smile when they present some new features is always so funny to me, and they try not to even mention the bad aspect of the thing. It's all sort of like mind games. But yeah, do get subscribed. I would want to test some of these features when the public beta is out, and also drop a video of some of my favorite features. But also leave a like if that's something you'd want to see. Moving on to FaceTime and the Phones app. So FaceTime has gone through this new redesign. It now has a new landing page, and the Phones app now looks like iMessage, with everything just packed into one single page. You can still access your contacts and dial pad, but there were three main features that were announced with the Phones app, and that was call screening, hold assist, and live translate. Call screening allows your phone to screen unknown numbers before you pick it up. Now, I don't know about this, but how it works is when you get an unknown number, your phone picks it up. It goes through a screening process where it asks the person for their name and information on why they are calling, and once that information is provided, your phone then rings. My initial thought was cool, because I have something similar with iMessage. When I'm driving, you get a text, automated text saying, leave me a text, I'm driving. But then with call screening, I want to understand how it works. Why can't do you just get a message, or how does it work? Is the phone reciting something to them? How does the screening process work? So I'm quite curious to know how that works. I guess it's just my introverted thoughts talking, not to want the other person know that I picked the call, but I think it's cool. The other thing is hold assist. So the way this works is when you're placed on hold, it automatically just goes into hold assist, and the next time it detects a human voice, it pings you and lets you know that, oh, ready to pick up your phone, and you pick it up. It's all cool. Get subscribed. I'm really curious to know how that call screening thing works. The other thing on phone is live translation, and this happens to be the year where we see a whole lot of live translation. But my initial thoughts anytime I see it demoed on stage is that call is going to be extremely long, but I guess it's going to be the same thing whenever you're with a person and the person speaks another language and you have to use the translator app. So yeah, and those were some of the stuff coming to iOS. So moving on to watchOS 26, you now have two features. The first one being workout buddy. So that has an AI built trainer telling you how to do your workouts. So it reminds me of this app called Zombie. It was a running app called Zombie where you had to run, and the more depends on the length of the run, you hear zombies and they close in if you slow down and your watch detects that and all that. So that's what it reminds me of. But yeah, basically you have an AI trainer telling you what to do. But the one feature that will potentially make me want to get an Apple Watch again is, drumroll please, yeah, wrist flick. It's just this. Yeah, you just flick things that you don't want. But yeah, basically it's when you get a notification that you want to ignore, you just flick. Call you don't want to answer, you flick, and that's just it. So cool. I missed one with the double tap, but this one I really don't want to miss because I just want to see a notification and go nope, 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 nope. And then we got macOS Tahoe, that's what it's called now. So just put in bracket 26, but it's called macOS Tahoe. Aside from the whole noticeable transparent design, the big change was with Spotlight. And I'm not really a big user of Spotlight, but I can probably count how many times I've used Spotlight. But Spotlight is basically controlling your Mac by just texting it. And now with Spotlight, you can send mails or messages and add shortcuts and do a bunch of other things with Spotlight. The other thing mentioned was live activity. So for those of us who are continuity nerds, say you ordered a ride or a meal, you can now track it in real time and it pops up in the Mac. And when you click that, it opens up the iPhone mirroring app so you can see what's going on in real time. And then we got iPadOS 26. So the iPad is arguably one of the easiest products to recommend to anyone, but that's not for this video. But iPad got a lot of new features, from multitasking to audio selections in different media apps, and basically they've taken some features from the Mac and given it to the iPad. Great. But now we have multitasking, because before we used to have split view and stage manager, but those things didn't really feel like it. They were just But yeah, now you can open up to 4 to 6 apps on the home screen and resize these apps to fit your taste and just how you want them to look. We have the 3 window things that we have on the Mac that lets you close, minimize, or expand that window, and a new menu bar like we have on Macs. Also a new cursor, but I guess this would work if you have a Magic Keyboard. I want to see the menu bar if you have to use an Apple Pencil. I think that would work. Files is getting a new redesign, and you know, for iPads, the Files app is the next best thing. But it's good to see Apple taking the iPad seriously, because we don't just want to hear, oh, it's just an iPad. And I can't remember where this tagline was from, like a computer, unlike a computer. I think it was an Apple commercial, but I can't really remember. That tagline is still in my head. But these little upgrades are really cool to see, and it makes the iPad much better. Love to see it. So with other OSs I don't personally use, so I wouldn't know what to hate or like, but with tvOS and visionOS you can now have this glass looking design and a new background transparent interface. But yeah, I really like the widgets on visionOS, and you can now play pickleball on visionOS virtually with someone who has a visionOS. also. I know someone who would like that. Every other thing adjusts a little things, except iMessage. iMessage has gone through this whole process I would like to call WhatsAppification, because you can now create polls and change the background of your chats. So Apple slowly just moving everyone into the iMessage thing. Forget the blue bubble, green bubble. Everyone come. We have CarPlay and CarPlay Ultra and a new clear mode, which I see myself using if readability isn't going to be an issue, because it gives a sense of everything is just clear. I don't know. We'll see if I like it. Stay tuned. In other news, Siri was mentioned just twice in the whole keynote, and you can see Apple Intelligence just scattered around and littered everywhere in the whole OS. But yeah, that's about it. I don't want to give my take on liquid glass yet, just because I haven't had my hands on it, so I don't know what it would feel like. But what it reminds me of is this episode from SpongeBob where he created a whole bubble city out of bubbles. So anytime I see liquid glass, I see SpongeBob. Cool. Also, make sure you're following on all platforms, Instagram and Twitter at SV2Excel, and also check out other video we posted on Apple Intelligence only on iPad. There might be one feature you might just have missed. So I'll see you in the next one. I'm SV2Excel. Peace.